The bell had just rung when the students at Ridgeway High froze in stunned silence. The new teacher stood before them, clutching the torn fabric of her blouse, humiliation burning on her face. The laughter of three notorious bullies echoed through the room, loud, cruel, and heartless, but no one expected what would happen next, because that weak teacher had a past none of them could even imagine. And within the next hour, those same bullies who mocked her would be the ones begging for forgiveness. On their knees, the morning sunlight cut through the classroom blinds as Ms. Alina Reyes stood nervously in front of her new students. It was her first day teaching at Ridgeway High, a school known not for academics, but for its troublemakers. At 28, Alina carried herself with quiet grace. Her clothes were simple, her tone soft, and her smile warm, yet behind her calm eyes lived a story of deep pain. She wasn't here just to teach English. She was here to rebuild her life. Her past was something she never shared. A tragedy had forced her to leave her old life behind. Her husband, a soldier, had died in an ambush overseas, leaving her shattered. For months, she couldn't speak, couldn't eat, couldn't even leave her apartment. Until one morning, she looked at his old note: "Keep teaching the world kindness, Alina. Even when it forgets what kindness means." That letter had brought her back to life. So here she was, ready to start over, even if her heart was still fragile. As she began calling roll, laughter rippled from the back. A tall boy with tattoos under his sleeve, Derek, the school's resident troublemaker, leaned back in his chair with a mocking grin. Beside him were his two shadows, Ryan and Kurt, both famous for skipping classes and making teachers quit. "Yo, new teacher," Derek sneered. "You lost or something? Kindergarten's next door." But class erupted in laughter. Alina took a breath. "Good morning, Derek. I'm glad you're here. Let's start with roll call." Before she could finish, Ryan snapped a rubber band at her. It hit her sleeve, and she flinched. The class roared again. Still, she didn't yell. She didn't punish, she simply said, "I hope we can start this year with respect. You'll find I'm not easy to push around." That only fueled their cruelty. They weren't used to calm voices, they thrived on reactions. By the third day, their taunts grew bolder. They'd drawn caricatures of her on the whiteboard, mocked her accent, and even stole her teaching notes, but Alina never cracked, until that Friday morning, when everything changed. During roll call, Derek made a cruel bet with his friends. "Watch this," he whispered. "Let's see how long before she quits like the last one." He stood up, pretending to answer her question, then tugged at the sleeve of her blouse as she passed by his desk. It ripped cleanly down. The seam of the room fell silent. The sound of the tear was loud enough to echo. Alina froze, clutching her shirt to her chest, eyes wide with shock. Her face burned with humiliation. Every student sat still, no one laughed this time. Even the bullies didn't expect it to go that far. "Ms. Reyes," Derek began, but she didn't say a word. She just walked out of the classroom, silent. The principal called her in, but Alina refused to press charges. "I don't want them expelled," she said softly. "I just want them to learn what real strength looks like." No one understood what she meant, but they soon would. That afternoon, an announcement went out: all seniors were to report to the gym for a special physical education session with a guest instructor. When the students entered, they froze. Standing in the center of the gym, in full tactical fitness gear, was Ms. Reyes, the same teacher they had mocked hours ago, the same woman they thought was weak. The principal introduced her with a proud smile. "Students, meet Sergeant Alina Reyes, former Army close combat instructor. She'll be leading your self-defense module this semester." Every jaw in the room dropped, even Derek's smug grin vanished. The room buzzed with disbelief. Ryan whispered to Derek, "No way. That's her?" Kurt gulped. She's military?" Ms. Reyes turned toward them, her voice calm but sharp. "All right, class. Let's see what you've got. Who wants to volunteer first?" No one moved. She gave a faint smile. "Derek, maybe you? You're confident. I like that." The entire gym turned toward him. He stood slowly, trying to laugh it off. Sure, why not?" He walked to the mat, trying to act brave. "Go easy on me, teach." Alina nodded. "Of course." Within seconds, she demonstrated a defensive grab, a simple move using Derek's own strength against him. In one swift motion, she twisted his arm and flipped him clean over her shoulder. The entire class gasped. Derek landed safely, but the shock on his face said everything. Ms. Reyes extended a hand, helping him up. "That's how strength works," she said softly. It's not about hurting others. It's about protecting what matters. Then she looked around at the others. I know some of you are angry at the world. You hide it behind jokes, cruelty, and pride. I used to train soldiers who did the same. They thought hurting others made them strong, until they learned compassion made them unbreakable. Her words hit harder than any lesson. Ryan lowered his eyes. Kurt shuffled his feet. Even Derek couldn't meet her gaze. After class, Derek lingered behind. He walked up to her, head lowered. Ms. Reyes. I'm sorry. For everything. Ryan joined him. We didn't know what you'd been through. We just didn't think. Alina smiled gently. That's all right. The important thing is you learned. Don't let guilt hold you back. Use it to grow. She paused, her eyes glistening. You know, the last thing my husband ever told me was that kindness is courage in its purest form. Maybe today, you've learned a piece of that too. From that day forward, everything changed. The same bullies who once mocked her became her most dedicated students. They helped others, stood up to cruelty, and even organized a charity event in her husband's name by years end. At the graduation ceremony months later, Derek gave a speech. She didn't just teach us how to fight. She taught us what fighting for good means. The crowd rose in applause, but Alina didn't cry. She smiled, looking up, as if whispering to her late husband, I kept teaching kindness, just like you asked. No matter how broken life leaves you, your strength doesn't come from revenge, it comes from rising above it with grace, because sometimes, the quietest people carry the loudest courage.